Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Picture Perfect. I am your host, Bobby Gross, and we have a unbelievable show for you this week. I've got not one, but I've got two special guests on the show. First off, I'm going to throw it to my buddy Brandon Freeman, Instant Classic. What's up, my man?
How are you, Bobby? What's going on, man? Great to see you today.
This is the perfect episode to have you on for because I know when I started thinking about bringing the show back, I looked at all the movies that were coming out this summer, and Fast 9, F9 was on the slate. There's only one dude that I'm going to reach out to, and it was Brandon, because you are like a huge Fast fan. You've been wanting to get me on the bandwagon, so I'm glad to have you on the show. But then I also reached out to another guy. You might know him from the movie Trivia Schmodown. You might know him from Screen Junkie, Schmoes Know, JTE Movie Thinks, his YouTube channel. It is Josh, JTE Tapia. What is up, Josh? Happy to have you on the show.
Up? Thanks for having me, Brandon. Bobby, nice to meet you. Fast and Furious is such a interesting franchise because it evolved into something that I don't think it quite started out as. It started out as a Point Break remake, honestly, and it did a Halloween 3 where they made a third movie that has nothing to do with the rest of the series, but then they retroactively had to like fit it into the series. So I'm curious to hear your guys' opinion on F9 and just what your overall thoughts on the franchise is. So this is gonna be a fun conversation.
This is going to be a ton of fun. And the way we started out, we want to smooth it into the review. We're going to start off with just a few things that we've been watching this week. Josh, I know it's a little tough for you because, and I mentioned this last week with Chance Ellison, who was on the show. You know, a lot of the Schmodown people don't want to give away what they've been watching because sometimes, you know, you'll have the competition watching these things, seeing what you're watching. So I'm going to throw to Brandon first. Brandon, any movies or television that you've been watching lately?
Yeah, you know, it's definitely been an interesting time, like with sports and everything. Like I've just been so deep into like playoff basketball. Like that's kind of like probably like the last 3 weeks, almost a month, has kind of been geared towards. So I've only been able to fit in stuff here and there, just doing a couple date nights with movies and everything. I've watched some bad stuff recently. I've watched a movie on Netflix called Awake, and it has Gina Rodriguez in it, I believe. It's very much a ripoff of like Bird Box or like A Quiet Place, and it's just the plot of the movie. I'm not gonna give anything away, but it just doesn't make any sense. Basically, some like world event has happened, and it's wiped off everyone's ability to fall asleep, and then just crazy stuff happens. And it's like an hour and 30 minutes long, and by the end of it, I still didn't really know what the resolution of the movie was. It's just it wasn't good. Wasn't good at all. I'm not a big Gina Rodriguez fan, but I just did not like that movie at all.
I've never even heard of that, Josh. Have you? I mean, like, where did that come from?
I think I saw a trailer for it when it first came out, but didn't look great.
That's the thing with like these Netflix releases. I think what I was reading earlier this year was they had a new original movie every week. And it must have been one of those movies to where like nobody really cared because especially now, like the theaters are open. All the bigger movies that people care about are out in theaters or on HBO Max, anything like that. Right. But not exactly a rave review for that one, Brandon.
No, not at all. That was the one the girl picked, and that's on her. I picked a movie. I had to catch up on a movie. Jesus, the name of it's the one with Carey Mulligan in it.
Promising Young Woman.
Yeah. Promising Young Woman. Yes, I had to catch up on that. Really good movie. Tough, brutal ending. But honestly, when I sat there and when we talked about it afterwards, like the movie was kind of brutal. Like it wasn't like a fairy tale, story at all. So like the ending, the way it came, it was like, yeah, it was kind of rough, but just the way that the whole movie kind of, transpired, I think that it definitely worked well. And she's someone that I've definitely been enjoying a lot. The supporting guy, I can't think of his name, but I heard he has a really good show on like Netflix or something like that.
Bo Burnham.
Bo Burnham, yeah.
Thank you, Bo Burnham. Yeah, so I have to check out more of his stuff on there. But again, I enjoyed that movie a lot for sure.
Did you see Bo's movie 8th Grade from a few years back too, Brandon?
I didn't check that out, no.
Oh my God, that was an unbelievable one of my favorite movies of that year. Yeah. I think Bo was just uber talented. Josh, did you watch that new special of his yet on Netflix?
Yeah, I did. I agree with you. 8th grade, he directed 8th grade. He's actually not in it, and did a phenomenal job. And yeah, he co-stars in Promising Woman. I think he's great in that. And then that Netflix special was crazy. Like he does the whole thing in his apartment, and the creativity is just like off the charts. So yeah, he's uber talented, just like you said, Bobby.
And it's one of those things where, like, I had a couple of friends ask me, like, what have you been watching lately? And that was one of them, the Inside special from Mo Burnham. And I recommended it to both of them, and they both came back to me disappointed because it's not really like a comedy special that he usually does. Obviously, because it's from his house. So he wasn't on stage performing or anything like that. But it's very it's super unique in the way that he shoots. He performs everything. Like it's a one-man show, and it's definitely claustrophobic too. And just his comedy is a little subversive, like the stuff that he talks about. Some people want more broader comedy, but that's like right up my alley, the Bo Burnham stuff. So yeah, definitely check out Bo Burnham Inside if you haven't. Sure. Josh, what have you been watching lately, man?
Been watching quite a few things. I recently rewatched Hellboy and Hellboy 2: The Golden Army.
Ooh, okay.
I recently I've been upgrading some of my older titles to 4K.
Yes.
I have obviously 4K too, but I just bought a 4K projector. And I moved, so I have going kind of crazy on it. Still really enjoy those movies. I am in the camp that Hellboy 2 I think is a better film overall. I think visually it's more compelling, although the first one has some really cool stuff in it, like the villains I think are much more interesting in the first film. But I think the second one, I remember watching Hellboy 2 in theaters and thinking this is kind of like what people probably felt like when they first saw Tim Burton. The way he just kind of creates these worlds and these creatures. And I don't know, it's just the creature effects and just the way the world building has its own distinct style, which felt like a Tim Burton-esque feeling to me. So I was a huge fan of Golden Army. Rewatching them, they look great in 4K. Still enjoy the first film. I think the first film, the ending has a huge CGI monster, which doesn't look great to today's standards. Whereas I think the ending of Hellboy 2 really works beautifully and is just a lot of fun and creative. And I really wish Del Toro would have made his third film. I know they were trying for a while. Instead, we got the reboot. But those first two films are still really entertaining. And I think, Ron Perlman is just perfect for that role.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like you mentioned 4K, right? Like I got all my 4Ks in the background right now. I'm building it out, and it was perfect because Prime Day this past week. Yep. So put all the stuff on sale, got a couple of things there. It's interesting when these older movies get converted to 4K because like you said, Josh, a lot of these effects don't hold up as well. But it's kind of a give and take because 4K is not all about visual. It's also about audio wise. So Saving Private Ryan, like that 4K, I watched that a couple of weeks ago. It is unbelievable. Like it's a 20-year-old movie and obviously the effects are going to hold up better, but it's almost like you would be in an IMAX or a Dolby theater when you watch that in 4K. Yeah,
I recently picked up the Indiana Jones set. And before that, I got the Back to the Future. The 4K is unbelievable. Like I put in my old Indiana Jones Blu-ray just to compare. Obviously, when you throw the 4K in, it looks amazing, but I put in that 1080p Blu-ray and then I immediately put in the 4K and you could see the difference. Especially I have a projector screen, so the bigger the image, the more detail as it comes out. So the Blu-ray really looked like it was kind of stretched out to its limit and just looked like it looked kind of cheap. And then you throw that 4K in and everything's just pristine. Spielberg really knows to make sure his 4K movies are top notch. And I haven't seen Lord of the Rings in 4K yet, and I hear it's amazing.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
And speaking of the Prime Day, I picked up the Matrix 4K, which I haven't yet had a chance to jump into, but I'm really looking forward to that because I'm sure that's going to look amazing and sound amazing.
Yeah, I picked up the Hitchcock set for like $40 or something like that, which is an unbelievable deal. And then I picked up the Men in Black trilogy on 4K, which is super hard to find. Brandon, I know that you're a big digital guy. Do you collect the 4K movies at all, or are you just straight digital?
No. I've gotten some 4K just because like my PS5, I wanted to test it out and everything, like the hard version, the physical version versus digital. But I mostly stick with digital. It's definitely interesting when Josh had mentioned about Indiana Jones. I actually just got the set, the 4K set, just a couple days ago, and literally just this morning I went through Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I just watched maybe about like 10-20 minutes of it. I was like, let me just check this out, and just like a movie from 1981 just looking that good is just ridiculous. I threw on Ghostbusters. I'm just like, we used to watch this in a 4x10 box and just had like the best time with it. And now that we see these movies now, like the technology is just unbelievable.
Yeah. First Blood is a movie I watched growing up all the time. And I remember I had the VHS, and I feel like MGM, for some reason, just their VHSs were like lower quality than some of the ones you would get from like Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
And to go to watch, this movie your whole life growing up, then it makes it to DVD. And you're like, oh my gosh, this looks amazing. And then it makes a Blu-ray. And then when I got the First Blood in 4K, it's just like, it's never going to look better than this. I know there's 8K talk. I just don't know. I think you're getting too
how crazy
how much sharper can it get than this? So it's just amazing to watch these movies growing up and revisit them with these immaculate transfers. It's just like a moviegoer's dream, really.
Absolutely.
And the most depressing part about all this is somehow like the majority of people still buy DVDs. If they're buying physical media for whatever reason, that's the majority of the sales.
Really?
It's like, and the same people sign up for all these streaming services. And most of the time, like Disney Plus has the 4K, Netflix, if you pay more, you get 4K on it. But meanwhile, like they can't even tell the difference between like motion smoothing and regular like frame rate, which drives me insane. But that just makes me laugh. Like we just got 4K and now they're trying to make 8K happen. But I'm super stoked because this is going up on Tuesday. But so today, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory just came out on 4K. So that's like one of my all-time favorite movies. And that's one of the kind of like what you were saying, Josh, with First Blood. I grew up on Willy Wonka. So to have this in 4K, I cannot wait to scoop it up because I'm sure it's going to look amazing. So what I've been watching, basically, I've been catching up on all the Fast movies. So I went through 1 to 8 for the past month and a half. And the first one I actually saw was Hobbs and Shaw when it came out a couple years ago in the theater.
I was very mad at you with that.
Listen, The Rock sells me on these things, which is kind of funny because he's in Fast 5 and on, so I should have probably given it a shot. How do you guys feel about Hobbs and Shaw? Because for my first experience for Fast and the Furious, I don't think I was expecting the over-the-topness like right out of the gate because Idris Elba is basically Superman in that movie. Where does that rank as far as the Fast movies for you guys?
You go ahead, Josh.
Towards the bottom for me. I really felt the movie was bloated. Didn't really have a sense of pace. It was just like one action set piece. It made for a great trailer. I was really excited. I saw the trailer. I was like, oh, this is like a throwback to like Tango and Cash. It's going to be ridiculous. And I remember like being in the theater, and by the time they got to Hawaii, I was like, this thing should have been over by now. And then it went on for another 30 minutes. And the action, I guess, never had any weight to it. It just felt too cartoony. Say what you will about the Fast and Furious movies, they're ridiculous, but you care about the characters a little bit. So you actually are invested a little bit into the action, where Hobbs and Shaw, they don't really take the action serious from the get-go. So it's just like two video game characters going through a level.
It feels like satire, honestly.
Yeah, that can't die. So I was pretty disappointed with Hobbs and Shaw. It's got a lot of issues. It's very
How about
bloated.
you, Brandon?
Yeah, this was a movie that I didn't even care to see just because, the splitting of the Fast franchise just didn't really make sense. And like you said, Josh, like as cheesy as everyone keeps saying, like the characters and like the family aspect of this franchise is what kind of carries everything on and keeps me interested in it. So when you take two characters who I enjoyed when they were with everyone else, when you take them and you split them off and they do their own thing, like, again, there's, like you said, there's no weight to anything, especially when these characters, we know they're invincible. Like we've only had like one death, maybe two in the whole franchise, like meaningful deaths. So like when you push them off to their own franchise and do their own thing, like, you're getting cool action for sure, but you're not really caring about what's happening to these actual characters. So this was, it was something that was enjoyable for like the 2 hours that you watch it, just like every other Fast and Furious movie.
Hours.
yeah, just like this movie that we watched. But again, that's something that I don't even when I do my rankings of Fast, I don't even consider it. Honestly, it's definitely near the bottom for sure.
Yeah, and this past week I was just on the newer stuff, so 5, 6, 7, and 8, and they kind of all blend together for me. Like there's different aspects to it that are different, but overall, like even in the new one, I can see myself just like it's kind of like some movies like you get to Mission Impossible or the Bourne movies, like who really knows what happens in each one? They kind of all blend together at one point. The Pirates of the Caribbean is kind of like the same for me. But yeah, Furious 7 specifically though, with the Paul Walker stuff, that kind of like I'm still not huge. Like this isn't still one of my favorite franchises, but that still like stings when that ending 10 minutes of that movie. And it kind of unexpectedly hit me emotionally. I can only imagine for you guys because I mean that this is stuff that you've watched for years and years, and me, I'm just catching up on it now. When Furious 7 comes out, and I'm assuming both of you guys saw it in the theaters at the time.
Yeah.
How is it in your theater when it's kind of all the action dies down and we finally see the send off to Paul Walker in the movie?
Oh, the whole theater is in tears, and everyone's like super bummed out and everything. And I mean, it was definitely an experience. It was something with the Paul Walker death that just kind of hung over the entire movie. So you just kind of knew eventually it was going to be addressed, even though he had his scenes and the stuff with the CGI, especially when you watch it multiple times, you can definitely tell those moments where it's in there. But again, it was just something that kind of hung over the movie. And then when it actually happened, again, everyone was super sad and super bummed out. And obviously going back, you're thinking that was like the perfect ending to this whole series that they could have kind of just stuck out at. But obviously Universal is going to try to milk this for as much money as they possibly can, which I mean, I understand that that's business. But yeah, like I said, this was like a super, super sad thing. And like you said, it even hits you for someone who's only been watching the movies for 6 weeks or so. Like for us, like you've been watching it for 15 years or so, and you kind of, grown to like these characters, you've grown to like the actors. You watch Paul Walker in other movies like Running Scared just because he was in Fast. Like, oh, let me just see what's going on with him. So again, when that hit and that's that scene and that whole finale, and the finale was awesome. Like I love just the way that whole movie ended. Again, like the whole theater, it was super sad, but I feel like it was needed, honestly.
Yeah. How about you, Josh?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember when I saw it in theaters. I don't remember if people were crying or, tearing up. I don't remember if I did, but I just remember being, very, obviously it's sad. You're coming with this real life knowledge of somebody who tragically passed. And I think as a film geek, you're watching to see a little bit like, oh, how do they work this into the story? Like definitely the action sequence towards the very end. I think, they did a really good job of intercutting with Stuntman and his brother. But yeah, it was really sad. It was a beautiful send-off, which, I give them credit for. And this is James Wan. This is not Justin Lin, who's kind of like carried this franchise. James Wan took over and did great. I thought he brought a lot of new energy into the film franchise that it's a little more over the top than what Justin Lin does. And you see Aquaman, that movie is excess over the top, but in kind of the best way possible. Yeah. But yeah, I think they did a great job. I don't know how you could have done a better job of like kind of tipping your hat to Paul Walker and, the whole family aspect, the way the cars just split and like the overhead shot. It was so well done. It was a lot better done than I think I was expecting it to be. Yeah. And I thought it was a beautiful send-off. And yeah, the series could have definitely ended right there. But like Brandon said, $1 billion says we're coming back for another.
The Universal theme park ride, like of course they're and then they have to, and then they make the spinoff of Hobbs and Shaw, and coming off of F9, I really hope they don't make more spinoffs because they kind of open themselves up to that. We'll get to that probably in the spoiler section, but let's just get right into F9. So like I had said, I've been watching these movies for the past couple months, so for years, Brandon will tell you, he always pumped up these Fast movies. And for me, they always just look too stupid for me, which kind of are. But there's also a charm to it that I just didn't catch on to until I watched them. So I don't really have much of attachment to this, but going into F9, these newer ones, because F5 was essentially a reboot of the whole series. The 1 to 4 is a completely different series of movies. 4 kind of blends into 5, but it still has some leftover kind of cheesiness, and it 4 is like one of my bottom ones personally. But when we look at F9, there's a lot missing from this movie. We don't have The Rock. We don't have Jason Statham. It's those are two big characters that have been introduced in this universe, and there's no real explanation as to why they're not here anymore. And not good again, non-spoilers. So we're gonna put timestamps in the description if you want to skip the spoilers. But while there was stuff missing from this movie, I think there's some of the best Fast and Furious stuff in it as well. The action set pieces, I think they bring it to a new level of craziness in this one. It's just like, and I give it credit because it's inventive. It's not just action for action's sake. They actually do stuff with cars because, with the original ones, it's mostly like street racing. And I'm not a car guy, so I couldn't care less about the early ones. That's why there was a disconnect for me with like 1 to 4. But with this one, it was super interesting to see how they incorporate the newer characters. We have John Cena coming in. We lose a Rock, but we gain John Cena. I don't know if that's a fair trade-off, but overall, I think it's just a fun time. Like, if you like the Fast movies, you're gonna like F9. I think. I know Brandon might have. I don't know. I've heard his thoughts on F8, Fast 8, so he might not agree with me here. But for me, like, this is what I want from a Fast and Furious movie because innately it's ridiculous. So, and especially in this one, they acknowledge how just ridiculous this whole universe is, which I enjoyed. So I had a really, really good time with this movie. Let's throw it to Brandon. Brandon, what did you think of F9?
So my opinion might be skewed a little bit because right off the bat, I enjoyed the moment, like the time of watching this movie, just being after everything from this past year, just being in the theater. Granted, I saw Mortal Kombat a month or two ago when it was in theaters, but God, there was 6, 7 people in the theater. We still had masks on and everything. So, I mean, it was cool to be there, but it wasn't an experience where you like to see with like your summer blockbusters. This one, granted, it wasn't like a packed house, but I would say there was probably 50 people in there. And just being in the theater in like that environment was really, really cool to see like big explosions, hear everything super loud. Like that was enjoyable. So going in and watching Fast 9 and leaving out, I can say that I enjoyed my time watching that movie. The movie itself, I don't think was very good, honestly. The action was definitely like over the top, like we had talked about, Bobby. I felt like by far this was like the craziest one, that they did. This was a movie that I was kind of excited going into it, but I also didn't know a lot. This is like my PSA for people. If you know that you're going to go see a movie, something that you're super excited about, don't watch all of the trailers and all of the TV spots because you're going to spoil yourself. When I left the theater, I came home and I watched all of the trailers for it. And what I saw was in that trailer, I'm like, good God, they spoil so much stuff in here. And if I saw this stuff, especially one of the things that we'll get to later, I would have been upset, honestly, because like they told you everything that you were going to see on there. So for me, not seeing like any type of, I saw the initial trailer, but like the TV spots, like when I'm watching like the game, it comes on, I literally mute it and I stop watching it because I don't want to be spoiling anything at all. So I think all of that coupled with, again, being into the theater for the first time in a while, definitely helped with my experience in watching the movie. So I definitely enjoyed it. Just the first thought was that it was better than 8, just because I didn't care for 8 at all. I still have problems with the story and like the franchise and everything, but my overall experience for this movie, I thought it was a fun experience. I didn't think it was a great movie.
How about you, Josh? What walking out of the theater, what did you think about it?
I think it's a mid-tier Fast and Furious movie. I put, if you were going to rank it, it's going to be somewhere in the middle, right next to Fast 8 probably. I agree. Fast 8, I think at times F. Gary Gray didn't quite get the rhythm and speed of what a Fast and Furious movie was. And some of the fight choreography is not great. It's sped up in Fast 8, and I remember watching it because I watched Fast 8 right before I went and saw 9. But I do think the third act of F8 is fantastic. The whole submarine over the top insanity, busting through the ice. I'm like, that's pretty awesome. F9 is a mixed bag. I feel like at times it felt like a triple X movie more than it was a Fast and Furious movie, especially the opening, which is like, something James Bond has been doing forever. They open with a huge kind of set piece.
Mhm.
I actually like, when I go back to F8, I like the opening scene with the whole crane and the giant wrecking ball. I thought that was a really creative opening scene when Vin Diesel turns on the group. This one, it wasn't bad. It was still cool, but at the same time, it felt a little bit like Triple X. I wouldn't be surprised if in F10 they find out that somebody has cloned Dorito and that his name is Xander Cage, and it's going to be like Van Damme and Double Impact. We're going to have Triple X meets Fast and Furious, because this movie felt like it's getting closer to that big spy kind of movie than it is. Like, at least with 5, it's a heist movie. And then I think really with like 7 and 8, you're really getting to this whole espionage kind of spy stuff. This one just kind of doubled down on that aspect. And there's a whole aspect of this movie that wasn't really hinted at in the trailers, so I'm not going to talk about it until spoilers. And it takes a large chunk of the first half of this movie. And I was not expecting that, because they really don't show you any of that in the trailer. Very little, if any. And I remember just watching the movie being like, wow, this is didn't expect this. I do think The Rock and Jason Statham are sorely missed. I think there is no reason for them not to be here, especially with everything that they're dealing with. It just makes no sense for not to be involved, especially after Hobbs and Shaw. That's what these guys are capable of. Why are they not here helping the fam? It makes no sense to me whatsoever. So there's certain things you kind of just have to ignore with a Fast and Furious movie. It's a mixed bag for me, and I'll get more into spoilers. I think Vin Diesel is taking this movie so serious. Everyone else here is here to have a good time. Tyrese, Ludacris, they're all here to have a good time. And Vin Diesel thinks he's going for his Oscar. And it's just like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're slowing everything down. I don't know. It's a little bit of a mix of tones. Some of the tones in this movie are a little bit off. It's not a great blend.
See, I don't think that bothered me as much because I've been marathoning for the first time. It's like Vin clearly, as these movies progress, he clearly gets more and more creative control. So, like in the last one in F8, and with the wife and kid, like that one is kind of used for the plot, but it's clearly because it got super, super dark, and especially when they kill the wife, and it just comes out of nowhere.
Like, I'm here to have a good time and see ridiculous things. Like, this movie kind of jumped the shark. It nuked the fridge in like 6, I think. I think 6 is where it just went off the deep end, and you're like, okay, it's no longer physics, and reality is no longer.
When they jump across the bridge and catches her.
Exactly. So for me, I've kind of come to terms with that. When I go see these movies, I know what I'm getting into. And part 8 felt like Vin Diesel's like, I need to make this more serious. And every time they went to the baby and the wife or the ex-girlfriend, I was just like, get me out of here. Let's get back to the crew. And I felt the same way with this one. A lot of times.
Yes.
Every time it started becoming the Vin Diesel, drama, I was like, get me out of here. Let's get back to a crazy set piece and these fun characters interacting. Which, again, I think the last few films, like we say, it's the family. It's the characters interacting and dealing with these crazy scenarios. This movie really felt like we were missing a lot of those people. Like, the people that do come in for one scene. It's not even them all together. It really kind of felt disjointed and almost not quite the last few. I don't know if it was scheduling conflicts or just the way the movie was written and why The Rock and Statham aren't in here. I don't know. Even I liked the 8 when Luke Evans showed up at the very end with Statham. I was like, this is awesome. There's nothing like that in this one. And Helen Mirren has a cameo, which you see in the trailer, which doesn't even need to be in the movie.
No.
Yeah, you definitely feel it, that they split the crew up for whatever reason, I'm just gonna assume it's scheduling wise. There had to be, because I mean this cast is so big that
what has Tyrese Ludacris got going on?
Well, no,
it can't be scheduling.
Vin was probably doing Bloodshot or something like that,
Probably.
since this has been in the can for like a year.
Well, they've also had like that onset drama between Vin Diesel and The Rock. Yeah. So I don't know if that's still boiling over.
Yeah, they need to bring these guys back for the epic conclusion. You better bring everybody
finale,
back. Yeah, bring everybody back.
I mean, is there even a finale in the horizon as ahead of this point? Like, I just figure like it's just gonna keep going. And again, not gonna spoil anything. There's definitely something that they insert into this movie where I'm like, oh my god, this can go really sideways very fast. But you did make a great point before, Josh, that it really started taking a turn in 6, and that's when James Wan came on, and then F. Gary Gray.
Wan was 7.
7. So it started taking a turn in 6, but then Lin goes away, Wan comes in 7, and then it's just like, okay, it's straight craziness right now. And then we have F. Gary Gray in the last one. Lin comes back for this one. Did you sense any of those creative decisions that were in the previous one, earlier Fast movies, that Lin had his hands on, or was this just like, we know what this movies are now, like what can I possibly do here that could
I was excited for Lin come back only because he directed some of the best ones. I think 5 and 6 are 2 of the better ones, especially in the most recent, since like 5 rebooted it. I'm not a huge fan of 4 either, but I think he didn't have the budget he was able to have with 5 and 6. And I thought James Wan 7 and 5 are probably 2 of my favorites.
Yeah,
I think James Wan brought a whole new energy, and just the way they jump around the world, and the whole Jason Statham, who's like this someone who just pops up throughout every mission and messes everything up. There's such a fun dynamic there. And 5 was just like, the Ocean's 11 of Fast and Furious. The set pieces in that are amazing. The safe scene, still one of the best scenes of all the films.
Oh yeah.
So for me, I was excited for Lin to come back. I think the problem is Mr. Vin Diesel is in charge now. I think Lin is a director for sure. But I think at the end of the day, Vin Diesel has final say, and I think he's kind of taken over the story a little bit. And it's just the tone. It really comes down to tone for me. There's times where this movie is trying to be a dumb fun movie and it's trying to be a serious family drama. And I'm like, no. I was like, you can have a little bit of that, but this movie really, it's 50-50. And it kind of slows things down. It doesn't really get a good pace. But there are good action scenes. I mean, Justin Lin knows how to set up a great action sequence, and the whole thing with the magnet, it's fantastic. But it just doesn't come together as a whole, I think, completely successfully.
I think
I would definitely agree that the serious stuff takes away from with the fun and campiness of it. I don't know how you feel, Brandon, because F8, like I don't think it's coincidence that you have tanks on ice and submarines, but then you have Vin's baby mama getting shot. So like what's going on here?
For me, like, I think the series, they probably have a couple, but there's a gift and a curse with this series where there is no source material for Fast and Furious. So you literally can just make anything up. But they had, Justin Lin coming back is awesome. But I think like one of the biggest parts of the puzzle is that they don't have Chris Morgan writing the movies anymore. So like
every single one.
Yeah, he wrote all of like pretty much from what 3 up until 8. And I even think he did Hobbs and Shaw as well. Again, there's no source material, but this is the guy that is the brains of the operation. He's the one that's coming up with everything. So to take him out of this situation and to put someone else in, I definitely think it threw everything off. So even with Justin Lin coming back and providing all these cool, set pieces and action scenes and everything, still like the story is from a guy who's gone away from the franchise, and that was definitely a sour note for me, just because again, all of my favorite stuff is the stuff that Chris Morgan wrote.
Yeah, because I just looked it up. You have 3 different writers on this movie, including Justin Lin himself. So I don't that seems a little odd to me, just because he hasn't written a lot of movies, Justin Lin. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was Lin and Diesel working on this movie, and then Lin just takes, a third of the credit here, because I mean, these are Dom's movies at this point. Like, it was Paul Walker's for a while, and then unfortunately he passed. So now, Vin is taking over. And I don't know if he's aware of this, but he's not a good actor. So it just, like, Paul Walker wasn't a great actor either, but at least he had like a common man aspect to him, to where you cared about him. Like, he wasn't like the superhuman.
He grew into the role as well.
Exactly. We saw him because I mean, he was around for pretty much every movie except for Tokyo Drift. Vin went away for a while and then he came back. So Paul Walker was really the through line through all these movies. And once we lost him, it's like Vin is like, all right, now, like you said, Josh, time to win my Oscar. And boy, these are not the movies that is going to do that for him.
And he did show up in Tokyo Drift after a credit scene.
He did.
Which was like, oh, I remember being in the theater seeing Tokyo Drift, and everyone's like, oh, Diesel's back. And then 4 was like, we're getting the team back together. But I really do feel like the films, when they had Paul Walker, it was both their stories. And especially with 5, it was more of an ensemble. And I felt that way with all of them. And then it really feels like these last 2 are kind of zoning in on Diesel, man. And I think it's a little bit, he needs to step back and make it more of a collection of characters, and more of a, give everybody a little bit, give them some sort of storyline. Ludacris has no storyline here. He's just here because he's here. I'm part of the family. Branch out a little bit more into these side characters. Don't just make it all about Dom.
Yeah, there's no real character progression besides Vin. Like, he's the only one. And I will say, in this movie, because I've been watching all of these, I could not stand Roman. I couldn't stand Tyrese in these movies until this one, because it seemed like, okay, now Tyrese is the only sane one, ironically, in these movies, where he's throughout this whole movie, he's like questioning, how is this possible? Well, like, he's essentially the audience surrogate.
Exactly. He's always been that. I feel like he's always the one in all the movies who's like, what are we doing? This is crazy. Like, I feel like he's always the one who's the audience surrogate. Like you said, he's the one calling out the craziness.
I feel like he was just a whiner for most of it. Like, this one, it seemed like he was whining, but it was more in the fact, like, why are we going to space? This is nuts.
But why? Yeah, he's like, why am I in a rocket car? But I always felt like that was his job, and I always felt like he was kind of audience surrogate. And yeah, he's like annoying, but like in that annoying little brother way, kind of like that's what his role was in the family. Again, he doesn't know Dom. He was Paul Walker's best friend.
Yeah.
And the way he kind of entered the story, I need to go back and watch 5 again, because 5 is really the one I feel like sets the table for all the movies going forward where we're at right now, because it brings all the different characters together. Was it 7 that brought back Lucas Black, or was it 6? I can't remember.
He had a cameo in 7.
He had a cameo.
It was 7, yeah. It's crazy how they kind of had to work backwards. They're like, and the whole Han thing is a whole aspect of this movie.
The timelines were all messed up for a while. Like,
yeah, that's right. The timelines were messed up. And Han, to me, I thought they did an okay job bringing him back into the fold. It wasn't like the most creative. It was a whole like side story, which I'm like, okay. And it was almost like a way to introduce a new character.
Yeah.
I thought it was fine. I was hoping maybe for something a little more creative. A little.
Oh yeah.
They don't really explain how he.
Nope.
It's kind of just brushed over.
Mr. Nobody did this thing.
Yeah.
Here he is.
And even Tyrese in the movie is like, but how did you get out of the car? Like, and they still don't really explain.
No answer.
So, yeah. I thought that could have been done a little. Because they made such a big deal out of it. Like, he's back, and I was like, oh, I'm real curious to see how. And they gave a backstory, but at the same time, they didn't really explain it great.
They didn't put the focus on him. They even brought another character in him. So I'm like,
exactly.
Like,
should we jump into
I want
spoilers?
to care about Han. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily a spoiler, but
let's just give like overall thoughts real quick. Like, Brandon, where does this rank for you in the Fast universe? And what are you looking forward to going forward?
Again, this is probably a movie I would probably watch more than I would watch Fast 8. I love F. Gary Gray. I don't know if he was the right choice for this. It's in a different timeline. I would love to see F. Gary Gray get Too Fast, Too Furious, and John Singleton get Fast 8. I would just love to see what that dynamic would be between those two, because I love those two directors. So I would love to see those switched on there for sure.
F. Gary Gray was coming off straight out of Compton. So I think Universal is like, give this man a huge, because he just had a huge hit.
I think that's what it was.
And they were like, give this man Fast and Furious.
Right, for sure. And like I said, that's something, as far as this movie, it's probably the bottom part of like the middle of what I have as far as my rankings. I would watch it over 8. I would probably watch over 4 for sure, just because it's a more fun time than 4. 4 is just like a little bit too serious. Again, I don't think this was that's a fun time. If you understand the Fast movies, if you're like me who loves Triple X Return of Xander Cage, it's just the goofiest movie. You're going to enjoy stuff like this. It's just the story from what we've seen, like the progression of Fast. I didn't think it was good in regards to that. But again, I enjoyed watching the movie.
How about you, Josh? Where does this rank for you? Bottom?
Yeah, it's mid-tier. It's so funny. You keep bringing up F8, and it's hard for me because I think the third act of Fate and the Furious, I think that whole submarine sequence is better than anything in this movie. But I also understand how everything before that is pretty weak.
Yeah.
So it's really tough. Fate and Furious is like a real mixed bag, kind of bland. And then I think the last 30 minutes is pretty awesome. This movie, none of the action sequences super stick out to me like the submarine. I think the magnet thing is cool, but I don't know. I need to see.
There's a lot of magnets, so it's like what magnet scene trumps over the other.
Yeah, the third act scene is the one I'm really thinking of. For me, I would have to see this one again. I only saw it once, and I saw it a couple weeks ago at a press screening. So I would love to try to go see it in a packed theater. So I was actually going to go see it last night. And my dog got stung by a bee on his paw, so I canceled my ticket because I just wanted to make sure he'd be okay. Yeah, you heard me.
As he makes an appearance on cue.
He's sleeping. Yeah, he's down.
Chilling.
So I was going to see it last night, but because I decided to cancel my ticket. It's a mixed bag. It's very much like F8. I think it's a very mixed bag. It's in the middle, maybe towards the bottom of the middle, kind of like what Brandon said. Yeah. I think the new stuff in it, John Cena is okay. He's fine. He's nothing great. He's no Rock. I solely missed having Statham the Rock in this movie, and it felt a little too much. And I'll get into more of the spoilers about Vin Diesel's character and what his backstory is, because that's a huge part of this movie that was not advertised.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm going to play devil's advocate here from you guys, just because I have no attachment to it, and this is kind of what I want from the Fast movies. So honestly, this might be right behind Furious 7 and Fast 5 for me. Even Fate of the Furious I enjoyed, because I mean it's tough because we see how far the campiness can get with Hobbs and Shaw. It's a little too campy. But then at the same time, so you want some groundedness. It seems like these Fast movies haven't found the middle ground there. But I would rather, Vin Diesel try to act really bad and laugh at it than just watch a bunch of nonsense on the screen like Hobbs and Shaw was. So I've really, really dug this movie. It might be I'd have to watch it again. It might be right ahead of Furious 7 for me. I had a great time, and I just want to say, I'm sorry.
No, that's cool. That's crazy.
Listen, I got some hot takes about the Furious franchise. Okay. I mean, that just I have no attachment to it, and it's funny because I was bringing this up to Brandon before we started recording. I feel this way even after getting an IMAX ticket, and 50 minutes into the movie, it just stopped. So,
really?
So yeah, we got, it's funny. I'm an A-list guy. I think you are too, Josh, right? So they have, I don't know if it's at every theater, but they have a offer where you can get 100 pretzel bites for $30. So me and my buddy were gonna crush 100 pretzel bites during this movie.
We do not have that here,
and we only got to about 60, and then it just turned off. So I found a way to watch it. Not just I had to do what I had to do. But even after all of that, I still had an unbelievable time. And this is like the most summer movie that you can find. Like it's hot out, go into the theater,
Totally.
air conditioning, watch some cars
Yeah.
and magnets and space.
There's no better time for Fast 9 to come out than right now. Like it's
Yeah.
the perfect
Yeah.
time. Get to the movie theater, have some dumb fun, go see it. That's what it is.
Totally.
Yeah,
agree.
and it made the most money this past weekend than any other movie so far. So it's a good sign. Although I'm still, hoping that In the Heights gets like $200 million. It's not going to happen. But anyway, guys, so that was the non-spoiler. Let's get to spoilers because there is a lot to talk about here. I don't even know where to start.
I'll start with the whole flashback. Dom's brother, dad. That whole thing was not shown in the trailers.
No,
and I'm sitting here in the theater, and I'm like, holy crap! At first, I give them some credit because good for them for not ruining any of that in trailers. And I thought it was just gonna be the opening of the movie, but they keep going back to it. Like the first hour of the movie, I was like, wow, there's a lot of time going back to young John Cena, young Vin Diesel, going through whatever they went through. So I thought that was kind of fascinating. It was almost like a cool little prequel.
I said the same thing.
At the same time,
that's what I'm
how have we
concerned
not
about.
heard about this brother who's in a super? It makes no sense. That's the problem. Like this thing's all been about family, but you guys have had a brother this whole time that we haven't talked about. And not only that, but what's the off chance that their brother goes off to be this super James Bond villain? Like what is happening? And then at that point, why is Hobbs and Shaw not here? This is like exactly what they do. They go after these kind of people. I don't know. It felt really. It felt like they were writing around things that they couldn't do. Like we can't have Hobbs and Shaw, so let's just ignore it. We're gonna have Han come back. We don't really have a great explanation, so let's just give him a little backstory with a new character, and people will just be happy to have him back. So to me, those were the biggest things. John Cena's turn back to good didn't really make sense either.
But you saw it coming.
You knew it was coming. It was coming.
1,000%. I knew it was coming. As soon as I saw the trailer, I was like, okay, he'll be. It's just like Jason Statham. He's a bad guy, turns good. He'll be part of the crew. Come in the next one.
And that bummed me out too, because I thought it would have been way more interesting because obviously the series is about family, right? They keep saying it over and over and over again. It would have been way more interesting if Dom had to choose between his brother and then saving the world, because I feel like every time, and it happened with Statham, it now happened with Cena, they start off as villains and then for whatever reason they join the crew. So it doesn't make any sense. I thought that would have been way more interesting of an arc.
Yeah.
What about you, Brandon?
If I can, we might jump around a little bit here, but it's on topic of what you're saying.
Did
you see the post-credit scene?
Yeah.
The
way
I viewed it did not have a post-credit scene.
Okay, I got you. So it's just it's Jason Statham beating up this punching bag. Someone's in there. Someone knocks at the door. He goes to answer the door. It's Han, and it's like it shuts off. So I'm sitting there like, we've seen multiple movies where the enemy becomes friendly with the family. How am I supposed to get any excitement about a potential Han versus Deckard Shaw match off when they're going to be friendly? They're already friendly with Deckard. They probably told Han where to go get him or where to find him. So something like that, like to tease that, I'm just like, everyone makes up, like this family makes up with everyone. They hold no grudges.
And
like
that's the thing. Deckard, not Deckard. What's Statham's name?
Just Shaw. I don't know.
Just Shaw. Deckard Shaw.
Yeah.
He literally, there's 7 opens up with the montages like killing hundreds, cops at a hospital. Like this dude killed dudes, and then John Cena is like a James Bond villain. He's about to take over the world. He's about to ruin the whole world.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's my brother. It's all good. You're good now. It's just like, you don't go from ultimate villain to, Statham. You watch those movies after 7, they really are doing their best to like, oh, he was forced to do it because his brother, Charlize Theron's really the bad guy. And I'm like, okay, you're jumping through a lot of hoops, but you're doing something. I don't know how you come back with John Cena. This guy belongs in jail. No doubt about it. It's just kind of ridiculous. But again, I think that's like a contract you sign when you go to watch these movies. You know it's not going to make sense.
No.
It's going to be ridiculous. It's a soap opera. Literally, a character has come back from amnesia who didn't know who she was. Is like the most soap opera like 101 with Michelle Rodriguez. So for me, it's hard to get caught up in those things. Just give me some entertaining action.
Yeah.
The issue I'm thinking with this is they're getting too much into the soap opera stuff to the point where it's starting to overshadow the action and the fun. And I think that's the issue we've had with the last two with 9 and 8.
Yeah. And with the Han stuff, like we kind of hinted at it in non-spoiler, I still have no clue how this worked. Like they said, okay, Mr. Nobody performed some kind of magic trick, but we saw Han in that car. Mm-hmm. So is that I don't know, was it a robot with Han's face?
He's in the fucking car. He's in the car.
He was in the car, and then you see him with Mr. Nobody on the side. It's like, what just happened?
Is there a hologram? What are we doing here? I don't know what's going on. And the big weapon, this one is like, I respect Mission Impossible because Mission Impossible is at the point where they don't even give a name to what the thing is in part 3. It's just a rabbit's foot. Like it doesn't even matter what it is. It is just something that we need to get. These Fast and Furious movies, it's like God's Eye was like, okay, this thing, I still not 100% sure what this thing was supposed to do. It just, it was like a cube that came together and it took over all the internet. I still don't 100% sure.
You had to go into space for the satellites and the satellite was going to, what?
It's getting to the point where it's like, don't even give it a name. Just say, we need to get this, make a joke out of it. Because all those things are right now is an excuse to get us to the next set piece. Again, I think Vin Diesel is taking this series a little more serious than everybody else.
I just don't understand the universe, like even the rules, because I mean, we've seen Vin Diesel in all of like these huge car crashes, right? He goes over a mountain, he's swinging on a vine, the car crashes with Letty in this one.
No, and they made a joke afterwards.
Yeah, right?
It was like invincibility, just straight joke. Like no, we didn't just almost die after doing a stupid stunt. We're just going to make a joke after it.
Not one scratch on him, but yet he fist fights with John Cena and he's got a scratch on his face. What?
For Vin Diesel to drive towards that broken bridge, like the odds of it happening the way that it happened is like
there's no physics.
It's just like he has a death wish because he had to know when he was about to do that. There's probably, only a 1% chance this will actually work. And he's just like, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and Ludacris is telling him up in space about all the physics and stuff. Mm-hmm. So they try to explain the physics in that aspect, but they don't explain the physics of a car jumping from building to building in a movie, or it makes no sense.
I'll say this: I was kind of excited at the beginning of this movie when Tyrese was having this whole like we can't die scenario, because I really thought they were setting up for a really fun sequence at the end where he's just. I pictured like a sequence where he's just walking through pure chaos, like everyone's yelling at him, "Get down, get down!" And they never really did that. Like they set up for a great joke / kind of sequence that never really came to be. And I was like, they didn't really go anywhere with that storyline. And I was like, I pictured like Rogue One, where he's just, I am one with the Force. The Force is one. He's just walking through all the blasters to get to the button. I pictured like a Tyrese type scene like that, but more comedic, and it didn't go anywhere. All he said was driving to the satellite. And I was like, really? I was like, you set up for a really interesting thing there. And you just kind of abandoned it halfway through the movie.
It's just really over the top. And Brandon, you kind of hinted at the magnet scene before. That whole chase, again, didn't make any sense. Cena's car goes through a whole building, but when they turn on the magnets or at any other time, there's no other cars going through on the opposite side of, the street or anything. Made no sense. But I did like that Ramsey wasn't able to drive. Like in the Fast and the Furious, you finally have a person that actually can't drive. I thought that was actually pretty creative.
So for me, like the new characters that they've introduced in this series, I haven't gravitated to. Like Mr. Nobody, I love Kurt Russell, but I don't care about the Mr. Nobody character at all. I don't think that Cypher is a really good. I like as Charlize Theron. She's awesome. I don't think that she's a great villain. I just can't get into her at all.
She's got Hannibal Lecter vibes going on.
Yeah, for sure. And Ramsey, I mean, she's a side character, so it's not like you need to get too into her. But for her, it's just like it's almost like, oh, that's right, she's a part of this team now. Like this movie was like the first time I kind of cared about her, just because they gave her a little bit more than what she was doing before. The fact that she can't drive, like I'm always saying, like, why is she always in the driver's seat? Like, like what's going on? Like, why isn't she like driving these cars? Like even Mia is able to drive cars and whatnot, but we hadn't seen anything with her. But the fact that she can't drive, I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, they're going through the town with like the magnets and everything, and they're able to turn on and go like the opposite way and kind of have cars go. You know, it was interesting for sure, but definitely wacky. I mean, seeing like all of this debris coming out of like the store with like people just standing there, and the guy just standing there like, oh, what's going on? Like all of this stuff is just flying by him. It's just it was so wacky. Cool.
But
yeah, for sure, absolutely.
Remind me of Six Underground, which kind of beat them to it, where the whole end of the movie, the same thing. He has a super magnet taking guns away, and I feel like there's actually more creative stuff being done at the end of that movie. Like there's a scene where Ryan Reynolds is fighting in the kitchen and he turns it on and like knives just are thrown into dudes. I was like, okay, I thought it was kind of done better in that scenario in that film. Again, Michael Bay versus Justin Lin. And also I felt like what other film in the Fast Furious franchise, it might have been 7, might have been 6, where it's a very similar thing where they're trying to take down a truck and it has like guns on the side, and the whole action sequence is them trying to take out this one armored kind of like caravan. I think was it the highway one?
I think so. Yeah, I think that was in 6 when they were on the highway with like the tank and everything. Yeah,
so it felt similar to like stuff they'd done in the past. The magnet thing was new, but nothing in this movie. Again, I'm only gonna say this because I rewatch it. The submarine thing at the end of 8 is, I think, a better set piece than anything in this movie. And that's a shame.
I mean, I enjoyed all of it. I enjoyed all of the set pieces. Yeah, I think, you know, they have elements of the other ones in previous movies, but just turned up to like 20. You know, there's kind of a groundedness.
That tank highway scene is still, I think, one of the best.
Very cool.
Yeah, one of the best.
When the tank busts through, it's just a cool visual.
And then Ludacris like, we got a tank.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like the magnet thing was cool. The whole caravan, them trying to stop that thing. The money is on the screen, no doubt about it.
Oh yeah.
I just don't know if it quite is as good as some of the past films when it comes to set pieces.
And I know you mentioned like Cena should be locked up. All of these people should be locked up.
Yes.
I mean, these people are out of their minds. You know, you mentioned with the magnets, all this stuff coming out of the stores. You're going to tell me that nobody was injured or killed by these things flying around and the police cars like flipping around. And
Fast 5, that safe killed at least 100 people.
Oh yeah.
I mean, innocent people that were just driving to work were destroyed because these guys were trying to drag. So again, that's something you just watch this movie. You're like, oh, damage. It's like Man of Steel.
Right.
it's just you can't deal with it.
Yeah, especially like Dom. And there's one scene specifically. Dom kills a lot of dudes. Like that scene where they're like running away. I forgot wherever this like hideout was at. And he's like telling them like letting to go, and he closes the door and like. You know, I thought it was a cool thing because they turned the magnet thing on and took away the guy's gun so they didn't have to shoot. So I thought that was cool. And then Vin Diesel just comes in and like starts ripping these dudes apart. Like he does like the Bane back break across the ledge there. He's throwing dudes off of the ledge like they're there's another Batman reference off like Two-Face and Batman Forever. And then he's like pulling chains and like
thing, though. Ends with the back thing. It's like, okay, he's walking through his memories. I don't know what the hell is going on. Yeah, I was like, what is happening right now? This is not.
The younger Dom is actually his son, and I was like, why? I didn't know that. I didn't know that either. That is
I noticed the other kid from Animal Kingdom because I've seen that before, but I didn't know the other.
I knew him from Peaky Blinders. He's in that show. So if it's his kid. I mean, it's inevitable. There's going to be a prequel, right? He wants his kid to be a movie star. I think that's what it's going to come down to, right? Like that's going to be one of the spinoffs. Young Dom.
They didn't necessarily need to use him, but I felt like they could have maybe fleshed out that story and actually done a prequel. Like I'm sitting there like, God, I don't want to see this in the sense of Fast 9. I just want to see the action. But if they kind of did their own movie, I felt like, you know, it could actually work. Obviously, it's maybe time to bring this series to an end. But if they wanted to do something, I felt like they had a decent story there. I mean, this is a story that they talked about from the first movie that they went back to. I thought that was really cool.
I'll say this. I'm glad they didn't de-age. I'm glad they didn't go the Marvel route.
Right.
I was like, thank God they just actually cast younger people, because that would have been a whole... I mean, there's CGI Vin Diesel in this movie several times. That fight scene you talked about, like, there's scenes in there. I'm like, dude, you're younger. He's got to be at least the same age or younger than Keanu Reeves. And Keanu Reeves is out there kicking ass, doing his own stunts. Vin Diesel can't jump off a platform without being a CGI stunt double. It's like, What is this dude doing? Hit the gym, do some stunts, man. I don't need to see CGI Vin Diesel running around.
Yeah, I listen, it's craziness, but that's what I want. I'd rather have this craziness than like straight racing for another 3 or 4 movies, because I'm not into cars. So that's why I was kind of hesitant to watch the earlier ones, because if you're not really into cars, I don't know if it's going to connect with you, because there's just so many like car terms. I'm like, what is this? The cars and Coronas. That's basically all of, like the first 3 or 4 are. I
mean, to me, Fast and Furious is like the fast food action junkie kind of movie, whereas like Mission Impossible is like a nice restaurant sit down, like how to make a reservation. That is like action filmmaking on their level, whereas this is more of a fast food kind of, you know, it's bad, but you don't care. You enjoy it while you're sitting there eating it. So like, because you mentioned Mission Impossible earlier, and I think I did too. That series is just another level, I think, of quality.
Yeah.
You go in and you get a really great movie. I think Fallout is one of the best action films we've had past 5 years. Whereas these, I'll never say that about the Fast and Furious movie, but I'll always say I had a fun time.
Brandon, anything else you wanted to add? I know you're a huge Fast guy. Anything else that you wanted to mention?
Like I said, I mean, the introduction of like new characters like Han's like friend, I guess. I just didn't really care about that story at all.
It's all
like,
about the Chinese market, man. They're making their money in China. That's what it's all about.
I didn't even think of that, honestly, and that makes sense for sure. I just, again, the new characters that they just introduced, and like I said, just it looks like Cypher, she's going to be back again, because she just kind of walks away from that little thing. So they're going to have her back. They're going to have Cena back. I didn't think Cena was like the greatest villain, but I didn't think he was very bad. I saw for the first time. He didn't
have much to do. Like, he didn't get that much.
I saw for the first time, I saw the, what is it, No Time to Die? Is that the next Bond movie? I saw the trailer, and I saw Rami Malek, who I love him. I love Mr. Robot. I love him in it. I wasn't very convinced of him as a villain, but I think maybe John Cena might be a little bit less, honestly. When I saw Cena standing there, and obviously I've seen Cena for years watching wrestling and whatnot, he really looked like he could be like a Terminator. Like if they wanted to do like another Terminator movie or something like that, which I don't think they should, but if they wanted to do something like that, I felt like he could fit the build for that really well. For a villain in this movie, and especially you're just really taking the spot of Hobbs, of The Rock, don't think it really worked all that too well, but we'll see what they do in the next movie. It's definitely going to be a next one, so we'll see what they do with him. We'll see if they bring Sight. Well, they're going to bring her back, but they'll see what they do with her. The main thing is just there needs to be someone needs to die in the next movie. Like it has to happen, and it sucks to say that, but when I was sitting there thinking about who would be the best person for that to happen, Ludacris is not going to really care anything about it. Ramsey not going to care about that. Honestly, if they were to kill off Roman, I feel like people would be affected by that, just because he is the comic relief when it comes to the group. He's the one to kind of keep everyone down to level. So I feel like if they got rid of him, it would put a little bit more weight on this story. Granted, obviously, Dom, you can kill him off, and that'll mean he'll get his Caesar from War for the Planet of the Apes moment. He'll get that in like the last movie. But I feel like
it's going to end with them all at a cookout, sharing beers. How every single one of these movies end. No one's going to die.
I feel like some type of weight needs to, especially if they're going to do 2-part finale. Like, you went into space. Like, what can you do next?
Well, Vin
tried
gave a
that one.
quote the other day that he would love to do a musical version of the Fast and Furious.
Good God.
He was actually dying to do it. That's what he said. He was
I don't even think
dying
he's
to
joking.
do a musical.
Ugh,
Um,
not do that. You saw what In the Heights is doing.
hey, In the
No
Heights,
business.
fantastic movie. Listen, I'm just saying.
But not making any money.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, guys, I think that's all we have to say about F9. Listen, I liked it more than you two. I think it's a great time. It is what it is. If you accept, and I think at this point everybody who watches these movies, everybody's invincible. Nothing serious is gonna really happen. You're gonna have some explosions, cars, Corona Light. So it's like, what else do you want here? Like, you know what you're gonna get. So I think it's still, a good time in the theater. So if you can make it out, watch it. It's not streaming on like any of the platforms, so you got to go to the theater. Try to watch it in like an IMAX or Dolby. It's easy for us, Josh, because we can sign up for
A-list.
anything.
Mhm.
Love it.
I always go Dolby first, but IMAX is a good second. Did you see quick question? Did you see the Jurassic World?
I wanted to bring this up.
I didn't see it, so
Okay.
I was hoping to see it last night. Did you see it?
Yes.
How was
Looked amazing.
it? Okay.
I will say though, nobody expected it. There was no like tease, like, okay, here's the preview for Jurassic World.
Really?
I legitimately thought this movie was starting in prehistoric times. I was
That's
extremely
amazing.
confused. I thought they were gonna like some kind of metaphor for like family or
Wow.
I don't know what was going on, but it actually looked really, really good. And I'm not a Jurassic World person. I'm like strictly original Jurassic Park. The others I can do without, but it actually looked amazing.
I'm gonna have to check it out. Yeah.
They showed it was a trailer they showed before the movie.
It's not even a trailer. It's like
No.
a scene.
I got you.
It's like
It's like a prologue.
Didn't they do that for the last one? I feel like they did that for the Fallen Kingdom. They showed something before a movie with the opening scene. And so I think this was the opening scene, and then it kind of just evolves into like a montage, but you don't see any of the characters. It's just like the dinosaurs taking over. It looked really good. I'm not getting my hopes up because I think the whole Jurassic World series is garbage. But they look like most of the time these trailers and these clips look good. And then you watch the movie and it's completely different.
Gotcha.
All right, guys. So we're going to wrap it up. But before we go, we have a little game called the Pick Perfect Minute. So this is 60 seconds. Josh, you're very familiar with the speed round in the Schmodown. So you're ready for this. I'm going to do it to Josh first, and then we're going to go to Brandon. You got 60 seconds. It's basically this or that questions, movie-related questions. 60 seconds is up. That's it. All right. So whenever you're ready, Josh, you let me know.
Hit me.
All right. Favorite movie snack?
Raisinets.
Favorite movie drink?
Nice cold Coca-Cola.
Star Wars or Marvel?
Marvel.
James Bond or Mission Impossible?
Mission Impossible.
If you could see one movie for the first time in theaters again, what would it be?
A film that I've seen in theaters before or something I've never seen in theaters?
Anything you've seen that you would want to re-experience for the first time?
Braveheart.
Oh, comedies or dramas?
Dramas.
Scarlett Johansson or Emma Stone?
Scarlett Johansson.
A seat in the front, middle, or back of the theater?
Middle.
Dolby or IMAX?
I'll go Dolby.
Jim Carrey or Adam Sandler?
Jim Carrey.
Batman or Superman?
Superman.
Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter?
Lord of the Rings. All day.
And that's it. So pretty good. Pretty good. All correct answers. 10 out of 10.
Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect round.
Wow, I can't wait to see where Brandon lies here.
Oh, man.
All right. So I don't have that many different questions because
That's fine.
I cut it
I
close.
want to hear his answers to my questions.
I have a few different ones, and then we're gonna go back to the other ones. So 60 seconds, Brandon. Whenever you're ready, you let me know.
Let's go.
All right. Lights on or off when watching movies at home?
Lights off.
Physical media or digital movies?
I'm digital. Sorry.
Do you stay through the credits?
Yes.
DiCaprio or Pitt?
Pitt.
Favorite streaming service?
Right now, HBO Max.
Favorite movie snack?
Snicker Bites.
Jim Carrey or Adam Sandler?
Jim Carrey.
Batman or Superman?
Batman.
James Bond or Mission Impossible?
Mission Impossible.
Star Wars or Marvel?
Marvel.
Favorite movie drink?
Just water.
Oh, that's boring.
I know.
Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter?
Lord of the Rings.
Scarlett Johansson or Emma Stone?
Scarlett Joe.
Seat in the front, middle, or back of the theater?
A middle guy.
And if you could see one movie for the first time again, what would it be?
Probably Jurassic Park, but maybe I would like to see Endgame again just for the experience.
Perfect. Exactly 1 minute. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for being here on another episode of Picture Perfect. Brandon, we'll start with you. Anything you got to plug, my man? What's going on with you?
Nothing at all. I'm on Twitter, The Real Classic. Just know me tweeting about basketball.
That's it, right?
That's all I got going on.
Basketball.
That's it.
Josh, how about you, buddy?
Yeah, a lot of basketball and movies and football when the sports are going on. Yeah, at JTE Movie Things. Catch me there talking all that stuff.
And guys,
I got to ask Brandon, who you like for the finals?
I'm rooting for the Suns. It's just it's a cool story for sure. The Suns versus either the Hawks or the Bucks will be fine with it. So Giannis getting his first ring, Chris Paul being in the finals will be cool. Trae Young, anyone but the Clippers is what I'm going for.
Trae Young versus Booker would be pretty fun.
For sure.
So
again, anyone but the Clippers.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
And guys, you can catch this podcast on all of the platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, anywhere you can find podcasts. It's on there. YouTube, Picture Perfect, Twitter, at PickPerfectCast. You can find me at Bobby Is Gross on Twitter. And thank you so much, guys, for watching. Next week, we have the Tomorrow War. What is that movie? Not many people know. It's an Amazon movie. It's got Chris Pratt. We'll see how it goes. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for listening and watching, and we'll catch you guys next.